The U.S. just shot down an Iranian drone right next to a 100,000-ton nuclear supercarrier. But this wasn't the beginning of the conflict between the two countries. Is the U.S. Navy going to war with Iran? Before we get started, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Late 2025, the USS Abraham Lincoln leaves San Diego on what's supposed to be a normal Indo-Pacific deployment. Guam on December 11, 2025, South China Sea after that. Routine posture, normal optics. Then mid-January 2026, Washington yanks the whole strike group west to the Middle East. By late January, Lincoln is in the U.S. Central Command fight space, and now the ship isn't deployed. It's positioned. On February 3rd, the U.S.-flagged tanker, the MV Stena Imperative, gets threatened in a way that looks like it could turn into a boarding and seizure attempt. The guided missile destroyer USS McFall moves in, and air cover shows up, 2 U.S. Air Force F-16S in the mix. Hours later, it gets worse. In the Arabian Sea, an Iranian Shahed-139 drone closes on the carrier. It doesn't peel away, it ignores de-escalatory measures, and now the U.S. has a choice. Accept the approach and teach the region that closing distance works, or enforce space and teach the region that it doesn't. An F-35C launches off Lincoln and shoots the drone down. Why is USS Abraham Lincoln CVN-72 terrifying to Iran? Lincoln is a nuclear-powered factory that produces air power on demand. She displaces over 100,000 tons, carries roughly 5,000 sailors and aviators, and her flight deck is basically a moving airport, about 4.5 acres of steel, where the whole job is launch, recover, refuel, rearm, repeat. And the wild part is the tempo mechanics. Those catapults don't politely take off. They throw jets off the bow at roughly 160 miles per hour in under 3 seconds. And the arresting gear can yank a landing jet from flying speed to zero in about 340 feet. And because she's a Nimitz-class nuclear carrier, she doesn't live on the same fuel leash as conventional ships. 2 reactors mean her limiting factors aren't the nearest tanker. Iran's coastal strategy depends on predictability. Spot the threat, build a track, push it into a known box, and then punish it with missiles, drones, and harassment until the other side flinches. Lincoln shows up and steals the comfort part of that plan, because a nuclear carrier can sprint, reposition, and loiter without advertising a refuel rhythm. Even if you think you saw her yesterday, today she can be somewhere else, still launching jets, still running the schedule. Now add the part people always get wrong. It's not a ship with planes. It's a complete system stacked on one deck. The Lincoln's air wing in this crisis includes F-35C Lightning IIs, specifically Marine F-35Cs from VMFA 314, plus the other pieces that make the carrier feel like a self-contained war machine. FA-18 Super Hornets for strike mass, EA-18G Growlers to jam and mess with radar brains, E-2D Hawkeyes to extend the air picture, CMV-22B Ospreys to keep the logistics artery pumping, and MH-60 Seahawks to do the gritty sea control and rescue work. That stack matters because Iran doesn't have to beat one jet. Iran has to break the system that keeps generating waves. And this is where the carrier becomes a nightmare. The hard job isn't owning a missile. The hard job is finding a moving target, tracking it continuously, and holding that track long enough to guide a weapon onto it while the target is actively trying to blind you, trick you, and delete your sensors. Think of targeting like a relay race. Detect, classify, track, get fire control quality. Assign a weapon, feed mid-course updates, finish in terminal. People hear they detected a carrier and assume step 1 equals step 6. Nope, detection is not targeting. And carrier warfare is basically the art of making that gap so wide it becomes a cliff. If Iran wants to close the gap, it needs sensors talking, radars, drones, command nodes, data links. But the moment those systems start talking, they create something the U.S. loves more than silence: emissions. Now the F-35C gets cruel, because the F-35C isn't just a stealth jet for cinematic strike footage. It's a flying sensor suite that can stay quiet, listen, sort signals, and build a picture without screaming back. So Iran faces a nasty dilemma: search harder and get louder, or stay quiet and stay blind. And louder isn't just more detectable. Louder can become targetable. Light up the wrong radar at the wrong moment and you're not hunting the carrier. You're putting a beacon on your own forehead. And it's not only the F-35C. The Carrier Air Wing's electronic warfare layer exists to break the handoff from maybe to shoot. If your whole coastal denial strategy depends on turning surveillance into a reliable firing solution, jamming and deception make that conversion feel like trying to thread a needle in an earthquake. You can see something all day and still fail to shoot anything you can prove you'll hit. That's why the fear isn't one missile getting intercepted. The fear is the carrier strike group turning your sensor network into a liability. Also, geometry is undefeated. Ships get trapped by the curve of the Earth. You can only see so far from a radar on a mast before the horizon hides what's beyond it. That's why the Hawkeye layer matters so much. Put radar and battle management up in the sky, and you stop playing the horizon game. You get time back. You classify targets correctly. You prevent the fight from collapsing into confusion when multiple tracks show up at once. And if you've watched modern naval ops long enough, you already know this part. Confusion is how friendly fire happens. Confusion is how you waste missiles. Confusion is how people die. Lincoln is built to buy time, because time is the resource that makes procedure beat panic. Now zoom out one level, because Lincoln is never supposed to be alone. You don't fight a carrier like it's a boss battle. You fight a carrier strike group. In this crisis window, Lincoln is operating with a screen that includes destroyers like USS Michael Murphy, USS Spruance, and USS Frank E. Peterson Jr. Those ships matter because they don't just escort. They expand sensors, expand missile magazines, and expand engagement options. A carrier strike group is a moving shield bubble with overlapping coverage, and the whole point is to make the first enemy salvo run a gauntlet. The unsexy truth of deterrence isn't we have a big ship. It's we have layered defense, so your first big try probably fails, and then we start deleting the systems you used to try it. And Lincoln herself isn't some museum hull limping around on vibes. She was commissioned in 1989, but she's been kept relevant through major modernization. Because the Navy doesn't keep a supercarrier in the game by polishing it. It keeps it in the game by rebuilding the guts so it can support the next era of war. That's why she can roll from routine Pacific posture to Middle East crisis response without looking like she's improvising. The whole point of a carrier is that it arrives as a complete system, not a promise. If you want receipts that Lincoln isn't just a showpiece, look at how the ship has been used when things get real. In the early 2000s, Lincoln operated in the region supporting major U.S. combat operations tied to Afghanistan and Iraq. This isn't a platform that's never felt the weight of a real war tasking. And it's not only combat. Lincoln has also been used as a giant emergency response engine, like after the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami, when the carrier was part of the U.S. response delivering aid at scale. That's the part people forget. A supercarrier is basically a floating logistics and aviation machine that can swing between strike and relief faster than most countries can move a meeting. Now swing back to February 3rd, because the shootdown is the clearest message possible. From Iran's perspective, that drone didn't just get shot down. It got shot down near the single most expensive, most protected, most politically sensitive asset the U.S. can float into the region. And per U.S. officials, it happened with the carrier transiting the Arabian Sea roughly 500 miles from Iran's southern coast, close enough to feel it, far enough that nobody can pretend it's just local drama. So the shootdown becomes a statement. If you close the distance, we don't debate it, we remove you. And that's why the drone incident matters, even if the drone was believed to be unarmed or just surveillance. In a high-tension lane like this, surveillance that refuses to peel away is how you build the picture for the next move. It's how you test response time. It's how you probe rules of engagement. It's how you try to make the other side hesitate. The U.S. chose the opposite lesson. It enforced space immediately. And that hardens the risk calculus for every follow-up move, especially in Hormuz, where everything happens fast and nobody gets a quiet do-over. So what do you watch next? Patterns, not headlines. When you get a tanker threat and a drone shoot-down on the same day, you're watching escalation friction in real time. Commercial shipping pressure plus military contact in the same lanes. That's the danger zone because it forces split-second choices, and split-second choices are where miscalculation turns into first strike. No, war isn't guaranteed, but the margin for error just got thinner, and the speed of events just got faster, which is the worst possible combo. So we'll leave you with the only question that matters. If this becomes the new normal, gray zone harassment answered by immediate kinetic enforcement, Does that stabilize the region by drawing a clean line? Or does it make the next incident more likely to go hot even faster? Drop your analysis in the comments. Subscribe if you want more breakdowns like this.